So, hello everyone. Welcome and welcome back to the channel. Some of you know that I had a session scheduled with Darlena Watson of Watson Design, and she does human design charts, which I'm completely fascinated by, right? I know a lot about astrology, but I don't know jack shit about human design, and the whole concept of it is really fascinating to me. And I was curious because I caught her um, doing a stream with Robert Phoenix of 11th House Astrology on YouTube, and couldn't help booking a session with her. And so I did. And if you are interested or curious about human design, what a starter session with her would be like, then you can listen to the full, complete audio. She gave me permission not just to record it, but to share it as well. So there's things about me that most of you, if you have been following me in everything I do, then you know that there is nothing that I have said to her that I haven't said to my following. But I think some of you will learn some really interesting things about me through this session, but you'll also get an idea of maybe why you are the way you are, and or be more curious because there's differences, right? We all have these differences in our charts, but it was so interesting. So you guys have the complete audio from start to finish once I get my pretty self off the camera. You'll have the complete audio of the entire session that I had with her. And if you think it is something that you would benefit from, which I highly recommend it, then definitely look out for her. All of her information, I will link it all in the description so that you can find her. And I hope it is something that you invest in yourself with, especially because she's affordable. She's very affordable. So it was definitely worth it for me, and I was really grateful for her time. There are a couple little blips where I have bleeped out names. Okay, where I've silenced out names for obvious reasons. It's their personal privacy. Her and I were having a very candid, real conversation throughout the session. So there are little snippets where I bleeped out a name, but outside of that, I mean, it is the full-blown session in its raw entirety, so you guys can enjoy it, see if it is something that you would like to do, and I am definitely going to be investing in it further with her, so I will continue to keep you posted on what these human design sessions and stuff is all about, and yeah. So enjoy, guys, and I will keep you posted.
Hello, Grace.
Hello.
Thank you so much for your kindness today.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for the reading. I'm thrilled.
All right. Well, I'm so excited to hear that. I love going over people's charts and getting ready for readings because, I feel like I already know you from everything I've already learned about you.
That's how I feel about astrology with people.
That is so great. So tell me a little bit about yourself and what you're hoping to gain from our time together.
Well, first off, do you mind if I record the audio of this so that I can go back and re-listen afterwards?
I do not mind at all.
Awesome. So what I'm most curious about, I know I have one center that's completely empty, nothing's connected coming in and out of it. And I know I have other centers, two sets of centers that are completely connected. I want to know about those, but I want to know about facets of myself that truly benefit me to tune into, as well as things that I should be made aware of in my own character that do not benefit my own abundance in life and moving forward in general with happiness. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be aware of the different parts of myself, because I feel like as people in general, sometimes we are our biggest blind spots. And I'm aware of that because even in astrology, like my first house is pretty much empty. And so I know, like I know I am my own biggest blind spot. And I would love everything and anything that you find interesting looking at my human design chart, like, because this is a complete new world to me.
Okay, so do you understand how human design works?
I wish I did.
Do you
I wish
have
I did.
do you have somewhat of a base? It sounds like you've done a little bit of research on your own.
I have, but not enough to consider it anything worth a shit. So,
Okay. Well,
to be frank.
That's okay. Let's start at the very basics. I do want to encourage you, since you've got this on audio, that if this resonates with you at all, I would encourage you. I'm running a sale right now on my website on level 1 and level 2.
Yeah.
This resonates with you, I really encourage you to go that direction, because what I'm going to talk to you about is going to be a very big overview. And I do it this way because I don't want to waste anybody's time or anybody's money.
Yeah.
And so if it doesn't resonate, there's no need to go further, and you haven't spent a whole ton of money the way, you would if it did resonate with you. So since you have an understanding of astrology, I'm going to start by telling you that the purpose of human design, when you think about it as what it is a continuation basically of astrology. I can, for your understanding, text you a picture of your astrology mandala with the human design mandala superimposed with it. I mean, it comes in one, in other words, so that you can see where every gate and channel falls, or gate and center falls within your astrology chart as well, because I do understand for people that really get astrology, that's so helpful. Because you'll be able to see that, let's just say gate 16 falls in whatever house for you, and whatever sign for you. I mean, it stays constant, but I'm very unfamiliar. I'm trying to teach myself astrology basics, better able to communicate this to people who have astrology backgrounds. But human design takes what you know of astrology and then brings it in almost like a microscope. So it doesn't replace astrology, it fine-tunes astrology. The thing about human design that's a little bit different from astrology, there's multiple things, but one of the big things is that astrology only focuses on your personality side, while human design focuses on both your personality and your subconscious. They say it's at 88 days before birth that there is a surge in brain power in a unborn baby, an unborn child. And that is when we say in human design that the soul enters the fetus, enters the body. And so that's where you get the numbers for your design side. And with the subconscious and the personality side, looking at this in very much an astrological way, you can see how it further gives you even more detail, because it gives you more to focus on. So when we talk about you in human design, I don't exactly know how this shakes out, but I would say you being a generator would be the same as saying your sun sign in astrology. So what is your sun sign?
I'm a Sagittarius.
So we would say being a generator would give you characteristics that would help you understand in terms of that's similar to what your type is. It kind of gives you a broad overview of who you are via human design. Instead of saying Sagittarius, we say generator, because there are 5 types, and there are certain things that go hand in hand with people being generators, and human design builds upon itself. So when I talk to you very briefly about these different categories today, I want you to know that it goes deeper and deeper and deeper, and there's so much more information. But the very first and foremost thing we focus on in human design is your type, your strategy, and your authority. You're what we call a pure generator. What that basically means, the word pure, is that you are not emotionally defined. If someone is an emotionally defined generator, then they'd be called an emotional generator. So people get hung up on that word pure. It just means you don't have your emotional solar plexus defined. Mm-hmm. When we talk about generators, there are characteristics of generators that go from one to another, to another, to another, to another. But the main thing for generators to understand is that you're meant to be in response to things. Do you understand how being in response works?
Yes.
Okay, you do. So we don't have to go in depth on that. You get what it means to be in response.
Well, I mean, if I'm understanding it correctly, to be in response to something is to acknowledge what is going on in the outer experience and responding accordingly.
Yes, but in decision making, you are meant to be in response. And when I look at the totality of your chart, it's very important for you to know the distinction, because what I see historically for you is that when you're out of alignment, you're very much trying to push through life. You're trying to make things happen. You're really a go-getter. Mm-hmm. But for you, you really need to be in response, because what happens when you're a go-getter working against your design is that you just run into brick wall after brick wall after brick wall, and it can get very frustrating. So for generators, you'll see that your buzzwords are satisfaction and frustration. Anytime you feel frustrated, you can reverse engineer to figure out, did I enter into this by my own, or was I responding? So when you're responding, you don't have the frustrations that you had, because in a way, it's almost like saying it's God's divine timing. When something comes along that gives you the opportunity to respond, it's God's way of saying, this is for you, Grace. And
I've noticed that a lot about myself.
Right.
A lot. When things start to frustrate me and I feel like I'm hitting a brick wall and I'm trying to force things into a better energetic place, whether it's relationships or work environments or friendships, like if I have to push it to be better because it is giving me resistance, I already know I gotta let it go. It's just that time, like you said, divine time. It's like, okay, that contract, that time, that agreement and soul is coming to an end, and I just have to respectfully move forward, because I don't actually appreciate the resistance, you know what I mean? I know that it's just time for me to move forward.
Wonderful. But we can even take that further and say that if you go forward in life, understanding that you're in response, you can alleviate those situations that you have to let go of completely, because you would be in response and you wouldn't find yourself in those situations at all.
Yeah, that's what I'm working on.
Great. You're doing good. In human design, when we talk about the Saturns, while the Saturn energy, we're basing things off of what we have in astrology, because astrology is one of the components of human design, but we ferret that out a little bit differently. When I look at your Saturn, the buzzwords that I wrote down on my notes for you is, first of all, let me back up and say every single gate, every single channel has a high expression and a low expression. And the low expression is where you'll find yourself frustrated. And the goal of our soul curriculum, if you will, is we're trying to elevate all of those expressions from low expression into high expression through evolution. So in your Saturns, I see two things: pushing manifestation instead of waiting on response, and that you are meant by design, your overall component of your design, everything in your design is working towards the fact that you are meant to unify people around a transformative idea when the timing is right. So
that's what my entire soul work is based on.
Fabulous. Well, look,
that's literally what I do for a living on my own account, like my personal job.
Yeah, that's terrific, and I have so much more to share with you. So when you recognize that being in response brings you the people that will hear you, then it'll keep you from doing things. It's almost like an inner guidance. It's a serious guidance missile that says, Grace, there's buzzers going off when you're not in response, and your gut instinct, because you have the splenic and sacral defined, you will have a gut instinct that's going, auga,
Yeah.
auga, run away.
Yeah.
And you have to offer that, because that's your own guidance system telling you. You have a beautiful design, by the way. That 1-2 punch of the splenic and the sacral allows you to make decisions in a split second.
Yeah.
Where you get in trouble is if you get into your mind instead of honoring your gut and your instinct.
Yeah. That's 100% correct. If I don't trust my gut and I start thinking about it, I will talk myself into the wrong direction, and I should have just listened to myself the first time.
Well, what's so great about that splenic and sacral energy is, number one, that you're going to get that 1-2 punch I was telling you about. But when you start to get into your head, you also have this really cool thing called the sacral response system. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
The sacral response system is something that anybody with a defined sacral is blessed to have. If you put your fingers while we're talking on your throat, you can feel the hum of your words. Feel that humming?
Yeah.
When you are a defined sacral person, you are a very noisy person. You're going to be a person who hums or taps or, drums your fingers or is constantly making noise. I have 3 generator types in my household, or when they were little. They're all grown up now. But it was like, oh my gosh, if one wasn't clucking, then the other was drumming, then the other was, making sounds. It's a very noisy environment. The thing that calibrates a generator is the words and because they are the ways that generator types speak, but we're conditioned out of that at a very early age by well-intentioned parents or other adults in your life that say, now that's rude, say yes ma'am or no ma'am.
Yeah.
Well, when you take a generator type, and keep in mind that's 70% of the population, and you condition them right out of the words that calibrate their sacral, their generator, then you've just done them a disservice unknowingly. So we tell generator types to use the words and because they will calibrate you. They will help you feel that gut click. There's an actual click that you guys feel. I'm not a generator type. I'm a projector. So I can only tell you from a head knowledge what that is. I've never felt it.
Yeah.
But what I understand, it is a literal click, a feeling like, yep, that's the way I'm meant to go. You just know.
Yeah.
And the sacral response system, if you get into your head and you don't know which way you want to go, you find a trusting person to run through just a series of questions, and you embed the thing you're trying to figure out, your decision, you embed that into the conversation. So like, let's just say you're trying to decide if you want to get a puppy. You would call up me or a friend or whoever and say, I'm struggling with this decision. I just can't figure it out for myself. I'm overthinking it, and I'm not able to discern what my sacral's trying to tell me. Well, then you start out with a friend and they say, would you like some cookies? And you answer instantaneously. This is how the sacral response works. You answer instantaneously. And then somewhere in that list of questions, they just hit you, blindside you with, do you want a puppy? And whatever your split second response is, or answers that question for you.
Mm-hmm.
People that are not generator types don't have that, and I'm so envious of it.
Well, what's interesting too, because I've noticed it because you're talking about this connection, right? I've noticed that when I say things out of alignment, I can feel it. I can feel it out of alignment. Even if the intention behind what I'm saying is good, even if I'm not entirely sure in the moment, whatever the answer that I gave was, I can literally feel whether or not the words that came out are true or not. And it's a feeling. It's not like the words are untrue, because I could say I love you to someone and I mean it in that moment, but when the words come out, if it literally sounds like a lie, I know I'm going to end up eating those words, or my love for that person is going to stop at some point.
What's really cool about that is, as you're telling me that, I'm not surprised at all. Some of the notes that I have for myself on your chart, and I will text you a picture of this so you'll have my notes as well, is your undefined throat causes you to feel a pressure to speak. And so sometimes when you're speaking to prove your value or the value of what you're saying. But in fact, your communication center, which is in your Mercury, that's a center for communication for us, your Mercury is in gate 34. And when I look at gate 34, it is called the gate of power. And so when I combine that with communication, I see that for you, your words are extremely telltale. They are so powerful, and you are using the power of language. When you're at the high expression, you're using the power of your language, of your tone, of your words to literally transform people. Additionally, you are going into a position, let's see, where is this at? Gate 26. I've got this in my notes as well. Gate 26 for you is in your Uranus, which at 40, during the Uranus, is this word right? Opposition. That's what happens around 40 to 42. Not return, but opposition in astrology, right? So when that happens, you switch from your south nodes in human design, and Robert's explained to me that astrology doesn't recognize south nodes, but you switch to your north.
As an astrologist, I absolutely do.
Okay, I'm sorry, I know nothing about astrology.
That's okay. I know astrologists and mainstream astrologists don't recognize it, but there's a lot of things that I recognize as an astrologist. I think there's so many things that are so important that are not paid attention to, like devil in the details type things, and I look at the whole picture.
As you're switching from your south nodes to your north nodes, which all is going to be happening at around 40 for you, you're going to see the connection between the integrity that you have, that you were just referring to around your speech. You see the 26, which, where did I say it was? Oh, in your Uranus. That is all about integrity. And there are 5 different kinds of integrity.
It's my favorite word. I tell people all the time, integrity is my favorite word. I do not go against my integrity for nothing and no one. Will never sacrifice it for anything.
That's fabulous, because you had the full channel there. And you know, when you talk about stumbling blocks, like in Christianity, when someone has the full channel 2644, if you do go against your integrity, people will hold you so to the fire in a way that they wouldn't hold someone doesn't have that. So for a person who has that, to be very, very, very aware of their integrity is a good thing. So we've got moral integrity, energetic integrity, emotional integrity, physical integrity, and resource integrity. You got to be in integrity in all 5 of those ways. When you couple that integrity that you have with the power of your speech, it doesn't surprise me at all that when you speak out of integrity with your design, you know it immediately. So in tune are you with all of that, which I think is fabulous, by the way. I see, as you're switching to your north nodes, that you're going into a double 44 situation, going from a double 44 situation to a double 24 situation. It's a concentration, and I feel like that's also true in astrology, that when there's double of something or more of something, it's concentrated, which means you really need to look at it. So in human design, we call that rationalizing, and in the low expression, what people will do is they'll rationalize less. They'll rationalize allowing for less, is the way I want to word that. If somebody's mistreating them or whatever, they'll find a way to rationalize why that's okay, instead of understanding and seeing that that's not the purpose of rationalization. It isn't to allow for less for yourself. What you're meant to do is to use your rationalization, your insights, to redefine stories for growth. Because in the gate 44, which you have doubled in your south nodes, you have a serious ability to see patterns. And those patterns have to be elevated, that you're seeing, so that you can do your work, which you're so on track. But elevating those patterns is how you're going to help people to transform, because your overall mission in your sun sign in human design is to be open-minded enough that you can explore new ideas. You can resist doubt, resist doubt as a negative, because doubt is actually a positive. Resist doubt and confusion, expand your thinking and your consciousness so that you can help others do the same. That would be a summary of your Incarnation Cross. That's your purpose, and everything in your chart is set up to help you get to the point where you do exactly that. So when we look at the gates and channels of human design, we're looking for what could possibly keep you from being able to do that. We see that in your Saturns, that pushing manifestation instead of waiting on response, because that is who you are. That is what you must do. You must respond. Your sacral authority will always help you know what to respond yes to and what to respond no to. If you tune into it, which you already appear to be very adept at being able to do that, and, find a way to trust yourself enough to know that you can trust those responses rather than getting in your head, because your head, you have an open ajna. You are not one, none of us are, but the fact that your ajna is open doesn't help that situation. You are not meant to make decisions from your mind. You are meant to make decisions from your gut. You are designed in that way. So what you can also have in your Saturn expression, in the low expression, is a despair over having these huge insights. You're so insightful. You have these huge insights, but you're not clear on when the timing is right, or why do I have to wait? I mean, I want to tell people people the good news. I want to tell them the good news. But if you go against divine timing, you run the risk of being actually the opposite of help. So divine timing says when the time is right, the teacher will be there and the student will come. But if you try to teach the student before they're ready, you can completely turn them off to the education completely. Now, I really believe in that, because I believe that God does send us the right people at exactly the right time. So let's just say you did turn somebody off to something. There'll be another teacher. You didn't ruin anybody. You know what I mean? But in order for you to be the most effective, you've got to be able to understand, which you do, how to be in response, so that you are not having these feelings of despair and frustration over not being able to get out your big message. So you're here to help people expand. You'll know what you need to know. You'll know when you need to know it. You just have to be patient.
That's why I tell people I run on divine timing. People cross my path when they're meant to, and they don't cross my path or continue in my path when they're not meant to. And if I'm not the one to help them, then someone else will, and it doesn't bother me.
That's perfect, because the thing about it is, you do not want to help the people that you're not meant to help, because to do so would come at an expense to you. So there are no mistakes. And when I look at your chart, I see that both of your pressure centers are open. So you are a person who is under pressure. You feel pressure, you feel stress, you feel anxiety, and you have to learn to cultivate, which it sounds like you already are. I need to preface everything I say in that way, because your own growth has already been so huge. So when I say these things, reverse engineer and look back to when this was true for you, because you're already elevating things so much. But look at your chart and see that you're under pressure. You are feeling this huge calling to help the world, and that's accurate. You are going to help the world, but you have to wait until it's time.
I'm well aware.
You have to wait to respond to helping people when they're ready to hear it. And you have to trust in that divine timing that it will come. It absolutely will come. I am also meant to wait, but I wait on invitations. I don't wait for external stimulus to respond to. I have to literally be invited. So I sit here, I wait for the graces of the world to call me, because it's like, hey, I have all this info, but I cannot share it against divine timing, because if I do, I will distort the message. The person I'm trying to guide will resist me, and they'll resent me, and they won't hear a doggone thing I'm saying. They'll think it's all a bunch of hoo-ha. So when I'm looking at your chart, I'm seeing that you inspiration comes to you from so many places. You are always inspired. So you have be able to determine which inspirations are for you and which inspirations are simply meant for you to observe and go, wow, that's such a cool idea. And you would tune into your sacral. That's your guidance system to say, is this inspiration for me? And your
I do this all the time.
Yeah, it's either going to say uh-huh or uh-uh. So when we're looking at all your open centers, and this is what a level 2 reading does, it goes through all of those open centers for you, what they mean, how they interact with the world, what the energy feels like. And in that, we discuss how those centers operate for you. Each open center asks a question, and the open head center asks that question, whose inspiration is this? Because people who are open there are so aware of all the inspirations and ideas that flood them at all times that they can get overrun and pressured to try to answer all these inspirations or make manifest all these inspirations. Those full channels that you were talking about that connect one center to another, when a center is defined, we say that energy is constant. So with the pressure centers being open like that, and you have the gate 64 and the gate 63 coming off of that open center, those gates are not consistent for you. They come and they go. They come and go in the way that if someone comes into your aura that is defined, you can use the energy that you get from their defined center to have definition within your own center, but it's inconsistent because as soon as they leave, they take that definition with them. Mm-hmm. Or it can come from the transits of the sun. When the sun is transiting gate 64 or 63, you would have huge access to that energy. The rest of the time, it kind of comes and goes for you. That's what happens when a center is undefined. Mm-hmm. It just means that you don't have a consistent hold on that energy. But that is actually where we say you can gain your greatest wisdom, because when it comes easy, we seldom learn anything from it. Mm-hmm. And if this is our soul curriculum, the areas where energy comes and goes, you'll spend a lot more human energy trying to figure out how to work within that gate, that you gain wisdom over time. And I can already hear so much wisdom in you, Grace, and you're not yet 40, which blows my mind. So when you have such wisdom in your open gates, that means you have been seriously working with this energy. And I hear you in your voice explaining to me that you do just that for your work.
Well, it's interesting because I literally in my YouTube channel, I said wisdom only matters when applied. Like, you can have all the wisdom in the world, but if you don't actually apply it with action, it's worthless. And so I'm a practice what I preach type person, and so I'm constantly, as I guide people, I allow them to see me take action on it, because a lot of people have wisdom, but they don't actually know how to turn it into action. And so I'm always allowing myself to lead by example, because a lot of people, I mean, even as children, you know, we mimic, right? Children mimic. We even as adults can't see ourselves doing things that we haven't witnessed already in someone else. And so as a reminder to myself that we are all children on the inside, mimicking, I'm consistently putting myself in a position where I allow myself to be seen in a way that maybe other people haven't seen it before in other people, because they can't do it for someone else unless they've seen it. You know what I mean?
I do. Living your design is going to be very helpful for you, because your profile, you are what we call a universal truther. Are you familiar with that term?
No.
So a 5-1, you are what we call a universal truther about that which you research. I have the same profile. So we go around and we share the truth according to what we have been called to research. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to share the truth of being a chef, because I'm not called to learn that. I'm a universal truther with regards to human design. Mm-hmm. You're a universal truther according to whatever it is you're called to do.
Astrology and tarot.
People are looking to you for truth about that which you have researched. What happens when you're a 5th line profile, though, and I would suspect you recognize this already, is as a universal truther, people are looking for truth, and sometimes the truth they're looking for is the truth about themselves. So we are, our type,
I teach the mirror.
We are true mirrors. And so when people use that term haphazardly, it really bugs me. When somebody who, let's just say, has a 2-4 profile, it's like, I'm a mirror. No, they're not.
Yeah.
Not mirrors. Fifth line profiles are mirrors. And the true definition of a mirror is a person who gets projected onto. So you will have any number of people tell you that you are something that you are not. And you will be standing, I most certainly am not those things. They cannot hear you. So with fifth line profiles, people who are looking at you, I use this analogy when I'm talking and trying to explain it to fifth line profiles. The quality of the projection field between you and the person looking at you determines what they see. Now, let's just say you and I are clear, like a bottle of Evian, and we're looking at the world through this clear bottle of Evian. That's all well and good, but if the person that's looking at us is looking through a Dr. Pepper, they're going to see what they see, and we have zero control over that. You are so smart to recognize that when someone's looking at you through a Dr. Pepper, don't even engage, because you're never going to make them see you for who they are, who you are. Because the Dr. Pepper that they're looking through contains them. They are projecting onto you those qualities within them.
Oh, you should have this conversation with my ex.
My sister, who thinks I'm akin to Hitler, believe me. They see on you what they see, what they need to heal in themselves. And so it's important for fifth line profiles to understand that in order to keep their self-esteem intact, because they get all kinds of stuff bounced onto them. You're this, you're that. And you're like, I'm not. But you can tell the quality of what someone else needs to heal in themselves by what they're assigning onto you.
Which is insane, because when I talk to people, and I'll say this real quick, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but I tell people all the time, everything is a mirror, right? And if you think about mirrors, there's one-way mirrors and two-way mirrors. And so if you think about the one-way mirror, everything you say to other people, should you slide a mirror between you and them, you're having a conversation with yourself. And the reflection in the mirror is your higher self speaking to you. There's a part of you, a facet of you, a higher version of you. Like if you were to look at someone and say, I don't deserve this, your higher self is looking at you and saying, you don't deserve this. This energy that you're feeling between the said person that you're speaking to, like you don't actually deserve this. Your higher self is like, come on now. You know what I mean? Like you're humoring an energy that doesn't feel good. And then there's the two-way mirror, the facets of everybody else that are reflections of our inner world, because the outer reflects from the inner. So for everything going on in the outer, there's a facet of you that believes it on the inside somewhere, and it either is loving or not so loving. And if someone on the outside is saying you're a fraud, you know, there's a part of you on the inside that feels that way, and you have to decide whether or not you're going to continue humoring that facet of yourself or polish it out and literally remove it from your experience because it doesn't feel good.
I think that's a fabulous explanation.
Understanding that, I mean, literally understanding what I just said and putting it into application, I have put myself in such a state of peace. Like all of the people in my life are beautiful mirrors, and I get to be a beautiful mirror for them. I don't experience stress. I'm not in a position of power struggles with people. You know, all of the feedback that I get from my reality is stable and unconditionally loving. So, I mean, like, where I'm at in my life now and what I've learned, that peace is possible, that stability is possible, that everything manifests from energy. Because when you start clearing out your mirrors, when you actually start clearing it out, everything tends to flow from energy, right? Your energy is what manifests, right? Universal law of attraction, your energy says everything. Everything's serendipitously starting to work out for me in ways that if I didn't live my life live, you know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't even believe everything that I've gone through is possible. It's kind of like one of those come from nothing and end up with everything type energies, and it's from within myself. And that's what I've been trying to help other people understand as they're ready, you know, they find me. But it's that recognition or ownership of your mirrors. What is in the outer and what is coming from yourself? You know, because we're always in divine conversation with ourself constantly. Even my own videos, I watch them all back and say, okay, what conversation am I having? You know what I mean? The different facets of my energy. What am I going to give power to and what am I going to diminish power from? Because, you know, if I'm going to live my life in my highest, then I also need to know the childhood wounds that are consistently itching to come to the surface and keeping them in their place. Like, no, you cannot surface. Like, that's a wound. It's healing. I'm not going to rip it open. We're not going to go through that again. You know what I mean? Constantly in awareness.
I think that that's very true for you, Grace, with your 5-1 profile. But I really do feel somewhat that I need to express to you that not everybody benefits from that. Mm-hmm. All 5th line profiles would. And you are using it in a beautiful way because you're adding in the two-way mirror component. But the beautiful thing about human design, and frankly, I think you would be a fabulous human design instructor, someone who's doing what I'm doing. I think what human design allows for is the benefit of being able to look at people with their profiles and seeing that what's true for one of us would be completely, it's not that it's not true for them, it's just not their process, it's not their way. And so
it's not natural for them.
Well, it just won't work for them because that's not how they're wired. You know, personality profiling is deconditioning is step number 1. And we all tend to operate and think everybody should operate as we do because it's very natural for us. Mm-hmm. So everything you just explained resonates with me wholeheartedly. I have the same 5-1 profile that you do. But if you were to explain everything you just explained to a 2-4, it would be in some way conditioning them to behave like a 5-1. They have a whole different process. And so when you look at somebody with your configuration, a 5-1 who has that open emotional solar plexus center, you are absolutely 100% empathic, and you're also a mirror. But there are many, many, many people in the population that are not mirrors, and they use that term incorrectly. Additionally, when I look at your chart, you are an extremely energetically sensitive person. Yeah. In fact, do you communicate well with animals?
I do.
Yeah. So you are very, very, very sensitive to that type of energy, but you've got people that you're going to come into contact with that simply do not have the ability to see everything you just explained. They don't have the connection to energy in the same way that you do, and they won't be able to do that. I really think that,
and I'm glad you made that distinction because, like, I know it's a facet of reality that is possible, and I know that not everybody, either they don't understand it, it doesn't click, it doesn't register, or they understand it, but they don't know how to apply it and put it into action for themselves and utilize that. So, I mean, I'm glad you made that distinction because for me, it's a little frustrating to know that if someone could utilize it, it would benefit them greatly.
Absolutely.
But not everybody, like you said, is set up that way.
Exactly. So were you to learn human design, you would be able to add that to your astrology to see. And if you had a 5th line profile, man, you could explain that to every 2-5, every 5-2, every 5-1, and every 3-5, and they would thank you. They would get down on their knees and thank you.
Oh, I've had people tell me it's changed their life.
Absolutely. Because for the people with 5th line energy, it is very confusing. It is very confusing to be a mirror. And for the people who don't have 5th line energy, for instance, I have a sister this way who will walk around and tell everybody that she is a mirror, and you're just like, oh Lord, you are not a mirror. You are sensitive, and what you are, she has a 2 in her profile. People with 2s, she's a 2-4, they are extremely, extremely sensitive. They are so sensitive. And if you add in the component of the 4, they are hyper, hyper, hyper sensitive to criticism. And so what she's confusing with being a mirror is if anybody says the slightest thing to her, she will disregard it and say, that's just you putting your stuff onto me. When in fact, they're not mirroring her. They are trying to help her see a facet of herself that she refuses to see.
Yeah.
And this is it as being a mirror, when in fact, she's just extremely sensitive to any type of criticism. And that's where the whole waiting to respond for you, or in my sense, waiting for invitation, comes in handy, because regardless of profile, if you are entering in by design, in your case responding, and in my case waiting for invitation, it doesn't really, they are either going to hear you and respond back in kind, or they're not. And what really kind of happens there, when someone is willing to hear you with a 5th line profile like yourself, we call that your fractal. These are the people that are drawn to you magnetically. God sends them your way to hear your message. And your message may fall flat on someone else. I could tell somebody else this information and they would think I'm a kook. So it's like a freak to genius thing. If you are in design, the fractal who seeks you out will find you to be a flippin' genius. The people that are not meant for you to be their person will think you freaky. And you have 2 centers that we say are super connected, super consciousness. There's 3 of them. They're at the top of your chart: the 64, the 61, and the 63. Some people have none of them. Some people have 1 of them. You have 2. So you are very, very, very insightful, very connected to source, very, very able to see patterns, and all of that, and you are extremely sensitive. And all of that is to say that your open-mindedness, your ability to explore these new ideas, the way you process things, is all meant to do exactly what you're doing, which is to help people break out of the patterns that they've had in their life, see it for what it is, redefine it, and grow from it. You're completely on track. And so I think just knowing these little itty bitty things that would tweak that for you, adding in the design component that you don't have through astrology, being able to add a whole nother layer and even fine tune your astrology education even further would be huge for you. I don't see this as being something that would be difficult for you at all, because you're already basically there.
Yeah, it's just a matter of learning it.
Yeah. So
it's probably why I'm fascinated with it.
I'm sure so, because see that 5-1 profile, that's a heretical investigator. People with 1s in their profile, they absolutely dig this kind of stuff. And so anytime I get a reading for somebody who's a 5-1 or a 1-3 or any component of a 1-4, 4-1, I'm thrilled, because I know they're going to love it, because it grinds our gears. We love research and we love deep dives on things. And so somebody who is, let's just say, a 2-4 or a 6-2 or any other profile, they're like, look, tell me what I need to know. I don't want to know how to know. I just want to know. So I don't need the details.
Yeah.
They don't really care.
It makes me nuts.
I know, because as 1s, we're like, don't you want to know how I arrived at this? And they're like, no, can you just give me the cliff notes? They're looking for the cliff notes, which makes no sense to you and I, because we're diggers. We can't understand why anybody would follow any type of anything without investigating it for themselves. What other questions would you like to discuss about your chart?
You may have already touched on it, but as far as like, because I'm looking at, I have an app, a human design app. So I'm looking at my chart and the different basic stuff it lists, but the left angle cross of identification 2, it says 9/16/64/63. Can we explain?
Yes, absolutely. When you think about your chart, if you were to turn it over, the body graph, and look at it from upside down, everything, when you think of a funnel, funnels from the bottom to the top. So imagine that the chart was upside down, and everything from the bottom of the chart was funneling through to the little tiny hole at the bottom. That is where your incarnation cross lives. So basically, instead of flipping your chart, just flip your funnel over in your mind.
Okay.
Everything from all of your chart is funneling towards your 4 numbers that you just listed. That's what we call the incarnation cross, and they are the top 4 numbers in your design and personality side. They're your sun signs and your earth signs. So that's where those 4 numbers are derived from. They comprise 70% of your chart. So all of these other gates and channels, when you're reading about them, you want to ask yourself, what does this have to do with my incarnation cross? Specifically the gate 9. All of the parts of the incarnation cross are important, but they're really all funneling to that gate 9. And so everything in your chart is going to support that. Whatever is in your Mars, whatever's in your Venus, whatever's in your communication center, your spirituality center, all of those different things are somehow going to strengthen gate 9. And that's where your incarnation cross is. It's the combination of those 4 numbers.
What does gate 9 represent?
So, gate 9 is big picture thinking, and it is putting a priority on focusing on transformation, on seeing that big picture. Then you take the gate 64, which is all about inspiration and ideas and all this stuff that floods your sensors all the time from God. I mean, you are connected to super consciousness. Gate 64 is from the top of the head center. So that is where super consciousness lives. And so you are flooded all the time with all these ideas. Additionally, the gate 63 is in your incarnation cross in your earth center, and that's called the gate of doubt. And what happens with the gate of doubt is people confuse the gate of doubt with doubting, like a doubting Thomas. But the gate of doubt is beautiful because the whole structure of humanity is based on research. The very first thing you have to create a new reality is a doubt. So all research stems from some researcher thinking, I wonder if this would work. And then they set into motion experimentation to either prove or disprove the theory. So you have the gate of doubt in your incarnation cross, and in its high expression, that's what causes you to take all of these inspirations that flood you and then plug them in, and you're either looking to prove or disprove all the inspirations that
That's
come
why I
your
live
way.
by example.
Exactly.
Okay.
You're looking at all of that. So when I was reading to you your incarnation cross, and I was summarizing that for you, it's being open-minded. You are open-minded. If you look at your head center, it's open, as is your ajna. You are open-minded, and you are connected to super consciousness and exploring new ideas. We say that people whose ajna is not defined can see, that saying, there are more than one way to skin a cat.
Yeah.
Well, you are able to see all of the ways, whereas someone who's defined there sees that one way. They're rigid. I'm defined there, and I've had to really work to be able to see other types of ways, where for you it's like, well, how can you not see that? There's lots of people who are defined are black and white. People who are open there see all the nuances, all the grays. And so when you run across the people in our world that are it's so hard to make them see, they struggle with seeing gray. And you are very, very able to see all the different nuances, which is beautiful when you add that into being an open-minded person who explores new ideas.
Yeah.
So your incarnation cross says for you to be open-minded, explore new ideas, resist doubt in the negative way, use doubt in the way that uplifts you to continue your seeking. So resist doubt and confusion, expand your thinking through your doubts and your consciousness. And so through your incarnation cross, you are to help others do the very same. That's your purpose on this planet, and it is derived from those 4 numbers, and that is called the left angle cross of identification.
And what's the gate 16?
The gate 16, I can tell you specifically. Let me turn to my notes because I don't want to get it wrong. I never want to tell something to someone that's incorrect. Gate 16 in the unbalanced expression is a pattern of leaping into the unknown without sufficient preparation. So, like what we were talking about on your 5-1 profile, there are no mistakes in the chart. And so for you, you are being called to make sure, because everything that is defined in your chart is part of your curriculum. You are meant to make sure you are prepared. You're not leaping into things unprepared. And a lot of people with a 1 in their profile don't prepare. They just leap around and it causes chaos. So it's not making sure an idea is sound before you go out and deliver it. You, on the other hand, are tasked with being prepared, making sure that you use your doubts to help either prove or disprove a theory in that 16, so that you aren't getting an inspiration, using it incorrectly, sharing it incorrectly, all that kind of stuff. So that's just part of your Incarnation Cross, is using doubt, using all of your ideas, and in that gate 16, making sure you're prepared and researching to make sure that all your doubts and confusion is expanded on before you use your very, very powerful voice to communicate those ideas to others.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. There are certain things, like, I know that I want to share, but I doubt that I know everything about what I want to speak on, and so I know that if I hold off and I wait, that the information that I need will end up coming in, and I will know that that is the right time to share it because it'll feel complete.
Perfect. In your Chirons, you have double gate 35s, and that's going to come at age 50 when your Chiron return comes. Mm-hmm. And in that one, what we're looking at is for you to learn to cultivate your ability to know which of those experiences are worthwhile. And using everything we've talked about today, your sacral guidance system, really getting to know your splenic sacral 1-2 punch, tuning into the and the and really trusting your gut as your source of helping you make these decisions instead of trying to reason through your mind, is going to help you satisfy those energies in the low expression of your Chiron as well. Mm-hmm. So you're really very on track. And I think that knowing these things about yourself is only going to help you get there quicker.
I agree. That's why I was so interested in it. That's why I was so fascinated. Like, when I was watching you and Robert, talk about the different charts, and I'm like seeing things, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, I need to learn more about this, because I could see how the astrological perspective coming from Robert paired with the human design perspective that you have makes a more complete picture. Because I could look at someone's chart and I feel like I know them better than they know themselves. I really do. And knowing about the different gates, like, because in my chart, my Saturn is conjunct Venus, though they're in 2 separate houses. They are 2 degrees apart. My Venus is at 28 degrees Scorpio, and my Saturn is at 1 degrees Sagittarius. And then I have Mercury conjunct Saturn at 2 degrees Sag. So they're a degree apart. And knowing that those energies are there where they are on the cusp of my 5th and 6th house, like certain things in astrology, like, I understand it, but I don't necessarily know how to put it, I guess you could say, into human design.
Yeah.
And understanding the gates is big. I mean, I know my Uranus is an important player, but I don't necessarily know how to tune into it. Like, I'm a Sagittarius stellium and a Scorpionic stellium. I have double stelliums in my chart. And then I've got Taurus North Node. I would love to know about my North Node inside my human design.
Well, your North Node was doubled the gate 24 that I was telling you about.
Yeah.
Rationalizing, allowing less for the self. In your younger days, you probably, I don't think now, but in your younger days, you had a pattern, I'm sure, of rationalizing, letting people off the hook, saying, oh, well, it's okay.
All the time.
And
benefit of the doubt to people all the time.
Exactly. And what happens with that, when you have it in the low expression for a person, self-esteem really struggles to fit there. So when I look at your chart, and I'm real careful how I give out this information, because like you were saying about your Saturns, I'm able to take what you know about Saturn through astrology and pinpoint it all the way down to the gates 43 and the gate 34 for you. That's what human design will be able to do for you as an astrologer. And as I said, I will send you a picture of your combo mandala so that you will be able to implement that into your own teachings. But what happens when we see somebody with the gate 10 in their Neptune, and you have it double, you have the double gate 10 in Neptune, is you can find that a person, spiritually speaking, has had so much trauma that they have I want to be careful how I word it, and so I'm trying to tune into my own guides. Their trauma is such that they doubt their own abilities, and their self-love can really be affected in terms of their spirituality, their spiritual consciousness, whether or not they feel like they are spiritually deserving or worthy or lovable in the self because of trauma that they've had.
Now you're saying people who have that gate like I do, that's something they experience, or that's something they could see in other people, or both?
It's something they experience. And so when I look at the way it's configured in your chart,
that was a huge part of my younger years. Okay, a huge part. I mean, given after being with my ex, who, you know, I don't know how much you follow twin flames or divine counterparts, but he is someone who I had considered my twin flame. And looking at, because I had put his chart and my chart and human design on top of each other, so there were definitely gates being lit all over the place. He's much, much different than I am. But I learned a lot. Like, I learned a lot about my own worth. I learned a lot about what I deserve, so much so that one of our final conversations, because he was a projector as well, and one of our final conversations, because I looked at him and I said, I do not deserve this. And he said, yes, you do. And I said, no, I don't. I know I don't. And he said, yes, you do, because you choose it every day. And it was like a lightning bolt went off, given it was the exact day that South Node in Scorpio ended up hitting my Venus placement, which, the way I look at South Node, is like a Mr. Clean magic eraser. If it's not in alignment, South Node gets rid of it. And it hit my Venus, but that's the day I broke up with him. That was it. I said, no, I don't. And you're right. Like, when he said, you choose it every day, I was like, you know what? You're right. You're right. I am choosing it every day. And I don't deserve it. I'm not choosing it anymore. And I literally broke up with him right then. And he was floored. He didn't even think I was real. Like, he didn't think what I just said I meant. I was like, no, like, we're done now. And that was it.
Nodes, you have the double 44, which is recognizing patterns and being able to say exactly what you said.
Yeah.
I see a pattern here, and no more. So that's big. But you know what I was telling you guys at Roberts with regard to the connection charts with Ye and Kim is that sometimes what initially attracts us ends up being the huge irritants later on. Mm-hmm. And what I'm so excited about with human design as we evolve as a species is I don't think there's a single marriage that can't be saved given this information and a willingness on both people's part to hear it, because we tend to view the world through our own lens, as you well know. And so if you are a projector with certain things activated or not activated, who's married to a generator with certain things activated or not activated, and you're a 5 and he's looking at you through a Dr. Pepper bottle and blaming you for everything but doesn't even realize he's doing it, through education with a couple before they get divorced, being able to show them, look, you're doing it right now. You're blaming her for your issues. Here's your chart. Here's your stuff, dude. Here's your stuff that you're assigning onto this.
Oh, I wish I waited for the day that he would tell me to go through his astrology, because I knew he wasn't ready to hear it. I know he wasn't open. He thinks that what I do with astrology for a living is a scam. Like, he doesn't believe in astrology at all. It's all theory and philosophy and holds no weight or ground in the scientific world at all. And so to him, it's a joke. You know what I mean? It's a joke, and I was like waiting for the day, like, please, because he's a Pisces North Node, Pisces Moon, and I'm like, please let the day come that he actually is open to hearing it, because his chart says it's everything about him. And it was just, he wasn't ready. And so it was like, I had to bite my tongue, because it would have been a waste of my breath, a waste of my time and energy. And it only would have pushed us further apart. Like you said earlier, like when people aren't ready, you can't force it on them. It was essentially that.
Yeah, and comes that point where you have to self-protect. Had we known this
100%.
Which we didn't, it's life-changing, it's world-changing. So when I think about the parents who are able to parent by design, who are able to not condition their kids out of who they truly are, man, we're giving those kids a jump start, because somewhere some poor parent had no idea they were raising a little projector, and your poor ex got completely jacked. So am I making excuses for him? Somewhat, because I also had the gate of rationalization. I am holding him accountable and saying, dude, everybody has to elevate themselves, and it ended up costing you a divorce in a marriage that was probably very, very worthwhile. But if a person isn't willing to dig in, there's nothing you can do to force it. And had this been more mainstream, where people wouldn't call it hoo-ha, and people could be able to hear us tell them, this is what you're doing, and this is why.
It's so much truth to astrology, it's not even funny.
It's so true. It's so true. But specifically for men, and I find that with my clients a lot, men have been told over and over and over by society not to engage in this kind of stuff. It's the opposite of what is manly. Manly is you just tough your way through it. Well, that is completely shutting down of the self. They can't function. Now, wonder they can't function, because if they were to acknowledge that there's a part of them that could benefit from so-called therapy or astrology or human design, then they would be admitting weakness, which isn't manly, which they've been taught from the beginning of time is who they are. It's really very sad.
Yeah.
However, we can only help one client at a time, and we do our best, and we help the ones that are willing to listen, and the ones that aren't, we bless them with love and light and send them on their way, because we run the risk of demolishing ourselves if we linger too long.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy too, because I felt like that with him. Like, there was a point where, like, that gut feeling, like, if I didn't leave, I felt like the universe was going to remove me. I literally felt like, should I have stayed with him, like, it would have been the death of me, because a part of me feeling connected to him like I was, given his Jupiter placement in his first house, blew up my Chiron in my 12th house. So literally his rise and his best luck was my undoing and the martyring of myself. So I knew and just sensed, like, if I didn't get out of there soon, like, it would have been some crazy shit where I would have gotten in a car accident and died. Like, it just would have been some weird shit where the universe would have removed me, because it was truly in misalignment, and he didn't actually deserve, like, the behavior that I knew and sensed was going on behind the scenes. I knew that he didn't actually deserve me to stay. And had I pushed that, it was just a knowing, like, I knew the universe was going to remove me. I knew it. And so when that conversation happened the way that it did, and I decided to move forward, I felt like it was like a weird feeling of being given a new life. Like, I moved myself from what would have been the lowest expression of myself to my detriment, and moved into my high alignment in leaving. The acknowledgement of what was going on. Like, he put Chiron in my first house. He's got Chiron in Cancer. So it's literally where I was martyring myself, nurturing to a detriment. And my
I
wounds,
don't
my
know.
own childhood wounds locked in on that because I needed to heal the wounding. Like I had to go really deep inside my darkest mirror. He was my darkest mirror. As a 5 you're saying as a mirror, like I put myself in my darkest mirror to see what was going on deep down in there so that I could say hello to that wounded child version of Grace and say, it's okay, I love you, I got you. You're safe.
The gate 10, it's funny you should say that. The gate 10 is all about martyr.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in your Neptune, you have it doubled. It's in your spiritual walk,
Capricorn rules my 7th house. And Neptune's in Capricorn.
Spiritually, had you not freed yourself of that, your self would have been martyred. So it's very interesting. And I want to say too to you that you're right about really wanting to dig deeply in the pains, but knowing that each time it is deeper and deeper and deeper. And one of the things on my notes, so when I send you this that you'll see it, is in that full channel 2644, the question is asked, it's asked that you act as if you are precious. And so recognizing that you are precious is what can really cement your ability to stay in those 5 different types of integrity I was talking about. So it's imperative for you to heal yourself to the point where you can fully recognize, even with all those wounds, that you are precious, so that you can stay in all those forms of integrity to help you be able to do
I did a video on it. I literally did a video on it, like months later after him and I had split. I had gone back and reflected because, integrity would tell me that when things fall apart, it's not all one person's fault. Like, we can cast blame and we can be angry all we want, but at the end of the day, you could have done certain things better, even if they're small. And in the video, I recognized, because I was dealing with a liar, how was I lying to myself? How was I also, because he was keeping secrets, how was I also then keeping secrets? Because two-way mirror, right? I have someone who's keeping secrets in my reality. So what secret was I keeping? And I was keeping a very dark secret. Like, I literally was so unattracted to him because of his alcoholism. It was bad. That I noticed the pattern that whenever I showered and smelled great, he would want to be intimate with me. And I was so turned off because he was always drunk. I didn't want to be intimate with him drunk, that I literally started putting off showering as long as I could physically stand it, just so that he wouldn't want to touch me. And that was a secret I was keeping. Instead of talking to him about how his alcoholism was seriously affecting my attraction to him, because I knew he didn't want to hear it. He would have never gave up drinking, never. I tried to have a couple conversations with him prior, and that was an argument and a half on why drinking is important for him. But my behavior shifted. And when I stopped being intimate with him, in his mind, well, if she's not giving it to me, then I need to go get it from somewhere else. And she's probably getting it from somewhere else because she doesn't want to have it with me. So he assumed I was cheating, even though I was not. But he started cheating. And so I was like, can I really be upset with him for cheating, even if it's not right to cheat, because I didn't actually communicate fully to my full capabilities what I was doing. The secret that I kept, you know what I mean? That I was not showering like I could, should, would, because, like, that's why I'm not intimate with you. Like, that conversation was never had. And I started talking about in that video, like, I was his diamond. If I were in a field, like, he threw me back into a field full of crystal and I was his diamond. Like, I was precious, you know what I mean? Like, and that's the way I view myself now. Like, I'm a diamond and I will never forget. Like, he taught me how to see, I'll put it this way, he didn't teach me my value. The devaluing from him pushed me to see my own. And I am super grateful, because no matter how ugly the dynamic was in hindsight, because it was very much empath narcissist dynamic, I am truly grateful. Like, people ask me, like, yeah, he's my narcissist, but he's also my angel. He's my angel. Without that experience, I wouldn't actually have become who I am. And I love who I am. Like, I love who I am now more than any other version of myself that I've been. And I have a very eternal gratitude for that. And I let other people know who also, like, they're diamonds, like, they're beautiful souls, they're beautiful heart spaces. Like, please do not miss the value of you because someone else doesn't see it, or they negate it, or they diminish it. Like, please do not forget who you are, being a diamond. You are not like the other crystals in the field, you know? And someone's going to see you one day and be like, oh my God, what is that diamond doing there? You know, like, don't pretend you're a crystal or dumb yourself down or dull your shine, you know, because if you know your worth and you stick to that and you don't let anybody convince you otherwise, then you will come into alignment with someone of equal value and it will be beautiful, you know. Sorry, I went off a side tangent. But I mean, that was the conversation that I had with people, because I believe that if I'm going through a healing, it only benefits the greater good to witness it. And so I recorded that video and I have it, you know, it's up on YouTube. But it was my learning that I did go against my integrity keeping the secret, because I believe in full-blown truth. I believe in full-blown truth, on like full transparency. There's no secret kept. And I was holding a secret, and that was against the integrity of myself. Holding the secret was against my own integrity because I'm fully transparent. And that's why that video was so important, you know.
Mm-hmm. I just sent you a picture from my computer of the combination human design astronatal personality chart.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll additionally send you one with the design side too. But I would like your input on, I'm trying to learn this because on the 19th, this is what I'm doing on Robert's show. If you look on the almost mid-center, you can see right below the DC, you can see the gate 10 in Neptune, right at the cusp of Capricorn and Sagittarius.
Yeah, Neptune is just barely in my 6th house.
Okay. I would like you, knowing what I just told you about the gate 10, about it being the gate of martyrdom, and that the high expression of the gate 10 is self-love.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what that has to do with Capricorn and the 6th house, just so I can see how it correlates?
Well, the 6th house has to do with health and service, our greater service to the community, because it's a naturally ruled Virgoian house, and it's the vestigial virgin who never married and gave herself to community service and healing. So in the 6th house with Capricorn there, being where it falls in the 6th, Capricorn is the energy of the CEO, or the director of life. It is the shot caller and someone who doesn't spread themselves too thin but knows how to delegate tasks. Because being that's the martyr energy, I stopped calling shots. In misalignment, I stopped calling the shots. My ex was essentially running the show, and he was consistently trying to get me away from my soul work because he hated it. He hated that I had attachments to soul family. He hated that I had followers. Like, he hated that I was doing healing work. Like, he wanted all that to stop. He wanted me to go get a regular 9-to-5, stop all that hoopla crap, and focus on him and our life. Like, none of that ever existed. Like, he wanted me to be just a, like, D&D NPC player. You know what I mean? And he just wanted me to be in the world, living a very mundane life. And the more that I resisted, I mean, me and him got into quite a few tete-a-tetes over it. Because I refused to give up my soul work. I mean, that's where my stellium is, in the 6th house. I have a stellium. You know what I mean? Like, I have Saturn, Mercury, my Sun, Uranus, and Neptune, all five in my 6th house. So, there was no way he was going to pull me from my soul work, but the more I gave myself to him, the less time I had for it. So much so that I actually fell behind, because I do monthly zodiac card readings. I actually had fallen behind and missed 2 months. I just didn't have time because I was so busy running around like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to make this happen and that happen for him and his family, and trip there on the weekend and every weekend, and it says, doing laundry, doing cooking, doing cleaning. Like, it was constant, for him and family, that I literally didn't have time. And I had said to him, like, this is not okay. Like, I need a weekend for myself. Like, can you go to your uncle's with the kids for the weekend without me? Like, I go every weekend. Can I please have a weekend for myself? And he was like, all right, let me talk to... And, oh, it didn't work out. We're just going to stay home this weekend anyway. It's going to be over his daughter. And I'm just like, like, that doesn't... I need to be in my own darn energy. You know what I mean? Like, I need to just... Because I'm Cancer, Moon, and Rising. Like, I just needed to be in my own energetic space without everybody else constantly being around me, because it went from me needing a weekend on my own to just be, to now his daughter's coming. Now I have to babysit because I know he's not going to be involved as much as he could, should, would, and I'm going to be making lunch and breakfast and dinner and having to get her showered, and you know what I mean? Like, it's going to be a whole thing now. And it's just like, I couldn't even design without him giving me crap, because I'm huge in designing things. Like, I love designing art, I love designing different clothing and things like that. Like, I'm super into that kind of stuff because I'm an artist at heart. And he used to get really angry with me that I was still awake at 3 o'clock in the morning and I wasn't asleep. And I'm like, because this is the only time I have by myself where someone doesn't need something. Like, and it started to affect my health because, being the 6th house, I was not sleeping. I think I was sleeping maybe an hour and a half or 2 a day for months, because it was the only time I had to indulge in my work. But my health started to take a toll because I wasn't actually sleeping. My body started breaking down. I started to look exhausted. I started to put on weight. My body started to leave me. And the martyr in the 6th house, my health pays the toll. If I'm martyring myself, 100% my health is taking the toll. 100%.
So I've sent you the personality wheel that that takes only the personality aspects of human design and mirrors it with your astrology. Yeah. So now it hasn't sent yet, but it's on its way to you. On your design side, you have the gate 10 in the 5th house. What would that signify to you as an astrologer?
Gate 10, if it were to be in the 5th house, because I have
again, martyrdom.
Yeah, because I have Scorpio there. Martyring with scorpionic energy in regards to passion and purpose, I'd probably end up pregnant. And or getting a sexual disease, which is exactly what ended up happening. That's how I found out he was cheating on me, because he was quite brilliant, Gemini rising with a Jupiter in there. He was really manipulative and very smart. I would have never caught him otherwise. But he ended up giving me HPV, which I have since beaten. I'm HPV free now. But that's because I'm in alignment with my 6th house. I focused on my energy and the health in my 6th house. I was able to heal it. But I would end up with what was essentially a sexually transmitted disease, because Scorpio rules sex, so does the 5th house. And that's exactly what happened. I was martyring myself for someone out of alignment and definitely caught HPV. So, that's just one way it could manifest. I could have absolutely ended up pregnant. I could have ended up developing some kind of heart issue, because it's naturally ruled by Leo, which rules the heart. I could have ended up with some kind of heart disease, or something like that. So, it could have manifested in a lot of ways.
Well, see,
That or I would have divulged into drinking and drugs and alcohol. I mean, there was I could have went that way with Scorpio, and just, lost all creative ability, because the fifth house also has a lot to do with creativity and passion. So I would have ended up completely tanking and just said, fuck it. You know what I mean? I could have gone into a very dark scorpionic self-sabotaging place. I just know better. I know better. My South Node is conjunct Pluto in Scorpio, so I would not have done that, but yeah.
Okay. Have you gotten my last text?
Let's see here. Yes.
Okay. I want you to look at that picture.
Oh, that's so cool.
I want to walk through this so that you can understand from the human design point of view. This is going to help you understand your gates and channels, okay?
Yeah.
When you look at, in the one I just sent you, it is not, everything's up and down, okay? So it's going to look different to you than the one that I've sent prior.
Yeah.
The one I sent prior does not show the design.
It has my midhaven where the ascendant would be.
The entire chart should be rotated appropriately.
Yeah, it is.
So look at gate 10. It's now located at the top of the wheel in the second picture I sent, because this one's oriented not in the way the first one was. So there is a shift there, but all of the information is the same. It's just shifted in how it's
it's
looking.
a 90-degree rotation.
Thank you. So what I'm trying to explain to you and show you for the purposes of your own education as you move forward with this information, and should you want to take it further, I'm going to explain this center wheel, this human design wheel, so that you can plug it into what you already know about astrology.
Okay.
So if you'll notice the colors of the centers, like the identity center is yellow. And when you look at gate 10, which is the one we've been talking about, that's in both your 6th house and your 5th house by design, it's all going to be about self, because it comes from that defined center. That's why the 10 has the pie wedge of the 10 is yellow. It's colored because your identity center is defined. And so taking everything that you just said could happen, would happen, we are identifying that it is going to actually be something like if you were working with your own client that's going to deal primarily with them martyring themselves to the detriment of their own self-worth. Mm-hmm. And that's how we can fine-tune and focus in on things. If you notice a little bit over from that, you'll see the gates 26, 5, 9, 34, and 14. Mm-hmm. The order of these gates is in the way the sun transits. And so you can see not only the planet that's associated with each one of those, you can see where they are associated with your astrology wheel as well. And that'll help you understand the energy of the 26, being able to put it into what you already know about astrology. So that's going to give you a further flavoring that I wouldn't know, but people who study astrology are going to be able to take that information about the 26 and apply it to what they already knew about their Jupiter. No, that's not Jupiter. That is Uranus energy in Sagittarius, which is in house 6. But on your design side, it's in the 5th. Well, it's not in the 5th house. I beg your pardon. If the way that you see Uranus is black indicates that it's from the personality side. Whereas if you look at the 5, the same symbol's in red. That means it's from the design side. So this is just so that you can kind of understand how this all plugs into each other. The pie-shaped wedges that are not defined, that you see the planets in, those are the gates and channels in your chart that you do not have consistent access to. Those are the ones that are going to either be activated by a person who comes into your aura or the transiting of the sun. So this is a really good example of how human design takes that information and fine-tunes it down. And I think with your education about astrology, you're going to be able to gain much more emphasis out of this that I'm sending you than would be a layperson.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I sent it to you. I would not send this to another client. This is just something to help you be able, as that one energy that you have, to be able to understand how human design plugs into what already exists for you as an astrologer.
Mm-hmm.
Does all that make sense?
Yes.
I'm looking for two reasons. I'm looking for confirmation because this is what I'm speaking on Roberts on the 19th.
Yeah.
But I'm also asking because I'm wondering if it helps you understand your human design.
100%.
Okay, so I'm on track here?
Yeah.
Because I know that Robert's group is primarily made up of astrologers, and the feedback I keep getting is, how do we plug this in?
Yeah.
Do we have to learn a whole nother system? And the answer is no.
No, these charts are. I love that it has the I Ching because I literally have a book on I Ching as well. This kind of stuff is so it's so interesting to me. So the different colors, yellow is
corresponding with your identity center. So gate 10 comes off of that defined triangle or diamond in the center of your body graph.
That's the solar plexus.
No, that's the identity center.
The identity center. What is the solar plexus? Is that the red one beneath it?
Plexus, what we are calling the emotional solar plexus, is all the way to the right side of your sacral, which is that center square. You've got the spleen in brown on one side and the undefined emotional solar plexus on the right.
Okay.
So the way these are read is we go straight down from the top, head, ajna, throat, all undefined. So when you look over into the pie chart at the energies of those gates, those are undefined, which means you don't have consistent access. Below that, you've got the identity, then the sacral, then the root. To the right, you have the defined will center and the undefined emotional solar plexus. To the left, you have the defined spleen.
Okay.
That's how your body graph works. And so the body graph, human design comprises 5 different modalities. It has the appearance of the chakra systems. It incorporates astrology. It incorporates the I Ching, and it incorporates the Kabbalah. And quantum physics. So you have 5 different modalities. We say human design is the lows, and all those other things are departments within the lows. So human design takes all 5 of them and synthesizes it into a whole nother being, a whole nother modality that is made up of those 5 components. And when I talk to people who want to say it's voodoo or hoodoo or hogwash, I think there is no way on this planet that any of us would have the ability to take 5 different modalities, combine them, and for there not to be a flaw. Mm-hmm. These work with each other absolutely in harmony. There is no, I've yet, with all the clients I've worked with, been able to find one single inconsistency. All 5 modalities absolutely work.
Yeah.
Within human design. And so I think anybody who tries to defy the hand of God on that's got to be crazy.
Yeah. I would agree.
So, I hope that this has sparked some kind of interest in you in maybe possibly learning more about human design. I hope it's been illuminating for you. You know so much already that I don't know how effective I've been in teaching you anything that you didn't already know. If anything, all I was able to do for you was validate what you're already doing. I always suggest to everyone that the next step would be to get a formal reading that breaks this information down.
I fully intend to be completely fair. I fully intend to.
Yeah, I don't know for you how valuable a level 1 reading would be, because basically level 1 covers type, strategy, and authority. And with human design, in order to move on to the even deeper nuances of the level 2 reading, you have to be working in level 1. I could tell you all day long what gate 10 means, but it won't be fulfilled for you if you're not living in design in the first place. But with your level of education already, I don't know that you need any further explanation of level 1 that you couldn't get on your own. So you can save yourself some money there, because I think that you would be able to find on just the internet all of the information on generators and on the strategy of waiting to respond and on the authority of the sacral. I think you would find all of that there for you, that you don't need to pay me to help you learn that. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'll skip that. Then once you feel good
to be fair,
Grace,
I'm more of a visual / conversation type learner. I'm ADD out the wazoo. So like when I try and read, I mean, unless it's truly interesting me, which that's the case that I'm completely indulging and focused, but I do sometimes have a difficult time retaining what I read. I'm better when someone is talking to me and I'm looking at it. You know what I mean? Like being able to listen to you talk while I'm looking at my chart is more helpful to me than me trying to research most of the time. So honestly, I'd probably go through the level 1 just because it reiterates for me certain things, and I need to have it drilled in. To be fair, I do. I need to have it drilled in. I mean, Gemini in my 12th house, research and reading it's not my forte. It's just, it's unfortunate, but it's not my forte.
Well, thank you for explaining that to me. So then in that case, it would not be useful for you to have written documents that you could refer back to. I don't know. The way I do a level 1 and a level 2 reading, they are emailed, but they are broken into subcategories. So what we could actually do is, rather than me writing it all out for you, when we do your level 1 and your level 2, if you want to do it like we're doing now, where you call and you record it so that you have the audio, I could basically explain the energies that I would be typing out for you as a research document. Yours would just be audio so that you could play it whenever you wanted.
Yeah, I mean, and that's fine. I mean, even if you did end up typing it out, if I were to be able to look at it, you know what I mean, look at it while you're explaining it, then that's fine too. I definitely can't just read. I can't just read, but
it may be useful to do it that way so that you do have, if you ever needed to refer to it, you would be like, okay, I remember me and Darlena talking about that.
I'll remember exactly what we talked about. Like even my 3rd house in astrology struggles. It's virtually empty. So my 3rd house of communication, and research and education, which is essentially what the 3rd house is. People limit it to just communication, but it's education and research as well because it's Gemini's natural house. I have it almost completely empty. So it's like, I'm more of a hands-on, talk to me, show me. I'll remember things if I write it down. You know what I mean? Like if I'm note-taking, that's how I used to study for school. I would literally write the textbook in my notes because I'd remember what I wrote, visually seeing it and doing it in my notebook as opposed to just reading it in the textbook. So I would literally write the textbook in my notebook and remember what I wrote versus what I read.
I am listening to you, but while I'm listening to you, I'm looking for the word you just said. So hang tight 1 second. That gate 9, which is in your sun sign.
Yeah.
Listen to what it says here. Pressured to figure out where to place your focus.
And you know what? It's crazy because I used to say I would work so well under pressure. Like me and procrastination were best friends because I worked exceptionally well under pressure. I got to the point where I didn't actually want to feel the pressure anymore though.
Yeah, well, you're definitely pressurized in that center. Yeah. It goes on to say, not being able to see the relationship between ideas and actions and missing the essential details. Then it says, which I think is funny, this gate can make us seem blind to the big picture, and we can lose our focus by getting stuck going down a rabbit hole.
Yep, and that's how I felt. That's how I felt when I was with my ex. He is truly the most important dynamic I've ever had in my life. But it's like, I felt like I went down a rabbit hole. That's exactly what I thought, and I felt like I was losing sight of the bigger picture. Like there was
Well,
more to it
yeah.
than what I
Well,
was focusing on.
that is in your sun sign. And remember what I told you, that everything in your chart is in effort to support that sun sign. And this focusing energy is all right there. So it's a biggie for you.
Yeah, and you know what? And I'm always ahead of myself. Like I will do things that I feel are so important in that moment, but they won't actually be significant or show benefit, or that's why I was guided to do it for years. For years.
You mentioned you were going to pick up your son at 2:45. How many children do you have?
Just the one.
Just the one. And, parenting by design is so doggone important. I would also encourage you to consider at some point what we're doing now is called coaching by design on my website.
Oh, I want to get into I will eventually get into a session with you where I want to talk about my son and I's design, because he's my rock. I know if I'm missing something or not seeing something or I'm being blind to something, like my son sees it. And if I trusted him 100% of the time where he said something, it would be my healing would have been a lot easier.
Well, what I would say is, when we talk about conditioning with your son being young, his ability, knowing his design, his type, all of that stuff would help you cement in him who he is, so that later on in life, I mean, if he is a projector or a manifester, or a reflector, that energy would be so different than your own. And for your husband, your ex-husband, being a different type than your parent, it would be worth just looking at, because if you were a different type than the person parenting you, it can cause a trauma, because the parent is always going to parent from their position. That's all we know how to do. Our whole goal is to do what's right by our child, but we consider what's right to be what's right for us. So inherent at his young age to be able to understand his design, because what if he's a little projector? You can teach him how to work with energy.
I believe he is also a generator, but he's a different kind of generator than I am.
Well, that's important to know. So consider that at some point, because if he's a manifesting generator or an emotional generator, these would be things that you could definitely help him understand about himself and his process to help alleviate frustration for him, so that when he is almost 40, he's not trying to figure out why he tried to martyr himself, or, he may not have the same ability, especially being a boy, to have the freedom to study like you have. And then your 5/1 personality, you have done so much healing of your own. Then also the big picture thinking and all those components that you have, if he's not configured the same way and is not able to process in the same way, you'll want to know how he processes, so that you definitely encourage that way for him, so that he isn't, what's that word I'm looking for? Institutionalized by society.
Well, just knowing his natal chart, like his astrological chart, the way that I parent is very, like, I do not get on him for his responsibilities. He is 100% responsible for his own self, because I told him, like, I'm not going to get on you and ask you if your homework's done. I'm not going to ask you if you studied, because at the end of the day, I'm only stressing myself out with your responsibilities, and it's up to you whether or not you want to be left back or graduate with honors. Like, that's up to you. Like, if you get held back, you get held back. Like, that's on you. You didn't do the work. Like, that's going to be on your shoulders, not mine. I'm not going to take that responsibility on. I got enough stress going on in my own life. And having that conversation with him, he is 100% responsible for himself. He went from being in a dynamic with his father, who, it was a complete nightmare. And I know their charts, so I understand. But he was completely, like, failing. He was on the verge of not passing 8th grade. He had made it through 6th and 7th by like the skin of his teeth. And when he moved back in with me, I had that exact conversation with him. Like, I don't care. I care, but I don't care. Like, I want you to do well, but it is not enough that I want you to do well. You need to want to do well. Because if you don't care and you don't want to do well, I cannot stress over it. That is up to you.
All that's true. All that's true. And I only said to you what I said to you to encourage you, that knowing him by design, which I think it's fabulous that he has an astrology.
He's a Virgo rising. He's a Virgo rising with South Node and Lilith in there.
Okay. But I really do want to encourage that, because there's a different process. So just like teaching you the strategy to respond and how that works in your chart, if he is a manifesting generator, there's an additional step there that will save him misery going through his life. Yeah. Just remember, astrology is only enhanced by human design.
Yeah.
So, okay, I know it's 2:42 and almost time for you to go. Yep. I hope that you found this information valuable.
I appreciate it greatly.
Fabulous. I always want to make sure that people don't leave a conversation with me going, well, that was useless.
No, because, to me, because I've never had a human design reading before. I know that you and I have never had a conversation before today. You have no idea who I am. So to see what you know about me, looking at my design chart, confirms for me the pursuit of understanding it. Because otherwise, why would I waste my time? Like, I know astrology, and I know that it's accurate. In the 21 years that I've been doing it, it has never proven against itself. It has been accurate all of the time. And so I don't mind researching it further, learning more about it, fine-tuning my own knowledge, because I'm only benefiting what I know to be accurate. So for me to have a human design read and you not know me, but know me, it confirms for me the effort being put into better understanding it. So, because I'm interested in it, but if I'm going to invest my time in research, then I would hope that it's going to serve a greater benefit to the collective, because everything I do, I can't help it. I got a 5-planet stellium in my 6th house, and they're all majors, so everything I do is in pursuit of healing the whole. Like, my big quote is, if everybody just focused on healing themselves, the whole world would heal, and I believe that I could see it in my lifetime. And so if that is the pursuit of purpose within my own self, healing the self and allowing the world to heal in my lifetime in the pursuit of that, then for me to pursue understanding human design, it would have to benefit the whole.
Great. And I love that. And I agree with it wholeheartily. And so I hope you will consider helping me spread the message about human design through your own YouTube.
Can I share, because I audio recorded this, do you mind if I actually turn it into like a video and share it?
I don't mind at all.
Because I would love to, because like I said, I'm an open book when it comes to my life and my followers. Like, I believe in full transparency, so this was huge, and I would love for them to even pursue it and book with you should they find themselves able, because if it's accurate with me and you knowing and understanding me, then you could also greatly help them as well, and even help them understand why certain things I say don't click or they have trouble, you know what I mean, and gear them into the right direction while I'm still figuring all of this out, because I'm no expert at all, but you have knowledge that I don't, and I think that that's the beautiful part of having different facets of the self healing in the world, because I can't be an expert in everything. So the fact that you hold more knowledge than I do in this field, and this field is obviously beneficial, I would recommend any one of my followers get this kind of a session with you, because you hold knowledge that I don't yet have to give them, and it's beneficial. So I would love to share it. So if that's cool with you, then I absolutely will do that.
it is cool with me, and I'm also going to pop you a picture of my card.
Thank you.
You know, I do a Facebook page, and you know, I put a lot of education on there. So also,
Watson Design, I'm following it.
Awesome.
I'm Grace Nicole Miss Astrology and Tarot. Yeah, my page is following your page.
I try to post multiple times, and I know there are many, many people who are not reading, you know, everything I write. But for those that are interested, it's free education.
Yeah.
You know, so I appreciate that. And what I appreciate even further, Grace, is the validation, because I am so new at this as far as working with clients, and I want to be sure that the information that I'm giving has value.
Yeah,
and
100%.
So when you think about all of the different profiles out there, you being a 5-1, and there being 12 different profiles, the same gate, which you know from astrology, but let's just say the same gate 10 is going to work differently for a person who is a projector versus a manifesting generator versus a reflector. And that same gate is going to work differently for a projector with a different sun sign. You know, these are all just part and parcel, and the literal addition to human design to the knowledge already out there in astrology. It's like looking at a microscope. It's taking it into a smaller and smaller and smaller percentage so that you can see even with better clarity. And that's my goal in helping people understand that they can gain even more clarity as to their astrology chart even.
Yeah, 100%. So, I greatly appreciate all of your time and effort today. Like, thank you so much. And I look forward to working more with you in the future. This was a big deal for me today. And I even learned a lot about my design. And I really appreciate it. So,
have you had an opportunity to look at my website? It's brand new.
Yes. Yes, I have. The one that I went through the different kinds, and I had the issue with the payment section. But
yes, that's fixed now, by the way.
I assumed it would be.
Yeah. So my daughter just finished that up for me. Yes, I remember that now. That being you. Yeah, it's brand new. Robert encouraged me to get one, and I was like, why do I need a website? But I'm just awestruck by the way God is moving here, and I'm so grateful for it. And Robert encouraged me to get one, and so I did. But it is self-made by my daughter and myself, so you know, I don't know how it compares to like a real, you know, I have
I'm currently working on my own. I'm revamping mine completely, and I had it for a while just because it's more professional. Like, people like to see that you have an actual website is professional. But I haven't fully utilized it yet. I haven't fully utilized it yet, but I'm getting there myself. I mean, I'm just one person, you know, I work full time, and I'm actually on vacation this week, until the 30th. I'm actually transiting, into new work, but, yeah, I mean, this has been huge. I greatly appreciate it. I'm definitely going to work with you more in the future. I'm looking really forward to my tax return coming in. For so many reasons. But yeah, thank you so much. I definitely got to run, but I appreciate you greatly. Yeah, thank you. And thank you for allowing me to share it, because that's exactly what I'm going to work on when I get back. So
wonderful. Thank you so
you.
much.
You have a wonderful day. Appreciate you.
You as well. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.